But now that we're in this renewable economy, we have so many resources for our entrepreneurial endeavors, like Grid Alternatives. Eddie talked about Grid. If you're familiar with Grid Alternatives, they're training young adults, women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Some of our best and brightest are incarcerated in solar install in just 8 weeks, and giving them opportunities to create sustainable jobs for the future. So I'm going to invite our panel up for our sustainable ventures, entrepreneurship, and innovation, sustainable ventures building the future of the blue and green economies. And we talked a lot about what's happening in terms of the green economy, but we're going to talk about blue economy as it relates to entrepreneurship. Terry talked about AltaSea and the things that they do here and the businesses that they incubate. So I'm just going to invite our panel up, please. Our next panel, please come up. And I'm going to introduce our moderator, Dr. Robert Salcedo. Robert Salcedo has been engaged and involved with civic matters that impact youth, economic development, social justice, and literacy for over 40 years. In April 2019, he was selected to lead Community Build, one of the oldest nonprofit organizations. Community Build was founded in the wake of the Los Angeles 1992 civil unrest as an organization dedicated to rebuilding South LA and providing resources and services to the community, particularly at-risk youth, young adults, and families with children. Since arriving at Community Build, Mr. Salcedo, Dr. Salcedo, aggressively sought to increase funding sources to support an expansion of Community Build's services and community assistance programs. Please welcome Dr. Salcedo and our panelists for Sustainable Ventures. And I'm going to ask our panelists to please make sure that you talk into the mic so we don't have any of that feedback. Thank you so much.
So we have 35 minutes to get through this panel with 3 wonderful guests. And what I want to share with you is 35 minutes goes really quick, and I really want you to pay close attention because we're here to talk about the green and blue economies, and this is a conversation that haven't heard a lot about, but after today, I believe we're going to begin to have these kinds of forums on a regular basis because this is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. An emerging multi-trillion-dollar industry. Somebody say multi-trillion-dollar industry.
Multi-trillion.
Now, excuse me one second, I don't need my glasses to read, so bear with me. All right, let's get started. I'm going to ask the panelists, because of the limited time we have, to talk a little bit about themselves as I ask their question and their organizations. It's rather than me read off your bios, I think it's the best use of time. And we've got 3 critical questions we're going to ask today. And I have to tell you, I'm like a kid in a candy store. Community Build is a broad spectrum social service agency, but I'm kind of in my nerd spot today because I come from the energy efficiency business to the nonprofit world. And so I'm excited to be here. I also serve on DWP's LA 100 as we plan out the future for DWP. So my first question goes to our guest, Ann Carpenter. Somebody say Ann Carpenter. And I'm going to ask this first question of all of our guests. And as you answer the question, the first part of the question is, what gift of knowledge do you want to leave with the audience? And then here's the broader question. And in preparation for today, you gave me a very broad brush overview of the emerging multi-trillion-dollar blue economy. I found it to be quite fascinating. With so much ground to cover, would you take the time to define the blue economy, the various opportunities that are emerging, and the role that braid theory has played to expand the understanding of this high-growth sector?
Okay.
And I can repeat it if you need me to.
Yeah, just a simple question. So hello everyone, my name's Ann Carpenter. I'm CEO of a company called Braid Theory. Our company is a venture advisory firm where we help entrepreneurs that are doing work in blue economy, and I'll explain, become better entrepreneurs. So we run accelerator and incubator programs to train them, to provide mentorship and advisory services, to connect them to industry opportunities and help them grow and scale. So basically, what is so gift of knowledge. I hope you walk away today that you understand, if you came here understanding green economy and thinking about the transition around solar and renewable energy on the land-based space, I hope you'll understand the parallels and the multitude of opportunities that we're seeing in our ocean and coastal opportunities as well. So that's kind of the broad brush, is I think you're going to see a lot of parallels. So if you think about what the current ocean economy, what that entails, it's the shipping industry, the fishing industry, the oil and gas, oil industry, refineries, etc., that to now is often quite extractive. If you really think about what the opportunities in the blue economy is looking at through a lens of regeneration, of sustainability, and of solutions where we actually are using our ocean resources in a way that keeps them available for future generations. So it's in areas around food security. Terry talked about aquaculture. It's related to energy, but we're talking about wave and tidal energy, and even energy from the Gulf Stream, which, by the way, if we could tap into the Gulf Stream off the coast of Florida, we could power every home in the US. Just a weird little fact there. And then it also includes things like anything related to coastal climate looking at coastal resiliency technologies. So as we're looking at hurricanes, greater storm surges, more intense storms, what are we doing in terms of our coastal areas in technology and how to protect that? Then I would also invite you to think about even the new blue economy, which is what Dr. Richard Spinrad, who is the former head of NOAA, spoke about, and that's looking at intelligence, ocean intelligence. We know less about the ocean than we do about Mars. Just being able to get better understanding of our ocean, how it works, data collection, digital twins, sensor technologies, we get involved in a lot of that.
And that's incredible. And if you really listen closely to what Ann was saying, the net result is there's a whole lot of money to be made in a whole lot of areas. Let me go to Gunjan Soroya, and I'll start with the first part of the question is, what gift of knowledge do you want to leave with the audience, is the first part. And then Gunjan, your organization, LARTA, has clearly been at the forefront of the green and blue economy discussions and is recognized as a valuable thought leader in this regard. Please talk about how this circular economy of green and blue technologies are really a unified conversation, and how you envision communities of color in particular can and should be pivoting toward this economy.
Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel with such great people around me. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you as well. LARTA Institute, I'll start with that. LARTA Institute started in 1993. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and the organization was created only for the purpose of helping the communities of LA to develop skills on entrepreneurship. LAEDC, Los Angeles Economic Development Council, in '93 supported us when the defense industry was walking away from our communities here. And the idea was to take all of the science, all of the engineering knowledge and talent and convert that into startups. The learnings from there was something that was noticed by State of California, and they funded us for 10 years, giving us tens of millions of dollars to distribute to startups as seed funding, and to mentor and guide the community members to truly become startup businesses that are successful. In 2003, National Institute of Health and another agency at the federal level said, we'd like to do something similar. Can you help us out? And we set up the program, and we've been doing this for 20 years now, helping 5 different federal agencies from Department of Energy, NOAA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, as well as NSF and others, helping over 500 entrepreneurs every year in commercializing their innovations. Now, as an organization, we started to realize that we have been doing a lot in the area of sustainability without calling it out. So we decided to do something different. We decided to also add to our portfolio, creating a local acceleration program called Community Labs Program. And that focuses on two things. Number one, it's all about climate impact, developing technologies and solutions through entrepreneurship for resilience and adaptation. And number two, it's all about health and the healthy communities itself. Now, the lens that we are looking at, it's all about diverse community. 78% of all our innovators in that program is women, women-owned businesses. More than 70% are minority-owned businesses that have created their innovations, their ideas, and we've helped them to commercialize. And to help them, what do? We actually bring in capital as an investments and investment sources. We help them to acquire that capital. We help them to acquire customers, and we help them acquire partners so that they can really become sustainable enterprises. That includes focusing on our thesis, which is around three big buckets. Number one is conservation and preservation of our natural systems. Number two is food, energy, and water-based technologies, innovations, and systems. And number three is all about healthy community. Now, to your question, Robert, about one thing that I like to give as an audience member here. Earlier this week, we are into LA Climate Week. I don't know if you're aware of that. We're just finishing up LA Climate Week. And as part of that, there was a documentary that was shared with us on Tuesday at the event that we co-hosted, How to Change the World. In that documentary, the gift is really all about resilience. And the example there was about the North Dakota pipeline. I don't know if you've heard of this. There is an indigenous community that was going to get impacted because there's going to be an oil pipeline going right through the reservation. They fought for that. But in that fight, there was a realization that the reason why somebody can trample over you is because you're not resilient, you're not economically solid. And the economic resilience that they needed to bring into their communities will drive that. And the number one reason for that was lack of electricity, lack of power. So they decided that they want to actually become self-reliant on their energy goals and in turn drive the economic value, create jobs, create entrepreneurship, get companies to come out there and thus build up that community. So this particular conversation today, it's all about bringing that resilience and energy independence within your communities, and I'll encourage you to do that. Back to you.
Thank you. It sounds like LARTA is doing some incredible stuff for incubation and getting folks off the ground. I hope the audience caught that they're incubating folks from soup to nuts, idea to financing to mobilizing. You know, from the last session that we just had, I made a note that it's important that we don't get lost, that the infrastructure is what's key to help design for the structure, and then from the structure will be the benefits of what happens in and around the structure, so what's in the orbit. I want to go over to Kevin Harbour, and Kevin, I would ask the same question first, and that is, what gift of knowledge do you want to leave with the audience? And then Kevin, as President and CEO of BizFed Institute, you've been at the forefront of spotlighting growth areas in various sectors to include forums on renewable energy. Would you talk a bit about the work you've done, how it impacts the sector, and based on what you've heard from Ann and Gunjan thus far, how do you see BizFed Institute further aligning with this multi-trillion-dollar industry?
Thank you, Robert. Can you all hear me? All right. First of all, as Robert said, my name is Kevin Harbour. I'm the president of BizFed Institute, and I think this forum today, this summit, is very significant. You know, when we look at things, when I grew up, my parents worked for McDonnell Douglas. That's when people were making things. And when we made things, there were opportunities for advancement. Somehow that shifted to us becoming a nation of consumers. And this is a prime opportunity. Something that Dr. Fairchild said that really stuck in my head is that we have an opportunity now. It's up to us to upskill and get ourselves prepared for this emerging economy. When you look at some of the things that are being done from the White House on down, prices aren't going to go down, they're going to go up. It seems like there are going to be some issues with workforce in terms of disinvested communities being on a level playing field and to be able to compete no longer in your neighborhood or state or even nationally, but globally, because this is truly a global economy now. So now we're positioned. You know, our ancestors already knew about a blue economy, right? They used the blue economy to survive in the most simplest terms. They also knew about green economy. They respected the lands, were able to support their families and grow and live longer lives and probably healthier lives. Well, we've come back full circle. And these are two prime economies that we need to get involved in and take advantage of. You know, at the end of the day, all the signs are around us. It's been already mentioned before in terms of the economic shocks that happen from, you know, natural climate change related disasters. Again, I'm going to go back to you, Dr. Fairchild. It's not a wildfire, it's climate, because, you know, we're going to have failures in our infrastructure. But those failures don't have to spread and destroy thousands of homes. Maybe up to 100, right? But thousands? How do you go to a water hydrant and there's no water? Right? Why? Right? So now is the time to proactively take steps instead of reactively trying to figure out how to come back. Proactively take steps. Some of the things that BizFed Institute does, I mean, I've been on board 5.5 years. And one of the things that we do is we convene forums on issues that affect the regional economy. And being an African American male, I make sure that no disinvested community gets left behind. And so at the end of the day, doing good, I've been able to show even large companies that doing good is good business. Rather than look at a money grab and have a society full of Teslas, how about we build smaller, more affordable, accessible cars? We build the EV infrastructure, and now, people can get in at a lower price point. The bigger companies will make not as much money at the initial hit, but how about a whole community being able to afford getting an electric vehicle, and then we build the EV infrastructure. I mean, with the digital divide, that was one part. I've been involved in that for the last 5 years. We can do the same thing. Instead of building a broadband infrastructure, we can also build up our electrical infrastructure, and that takes the pressure off the grid, right? So that when it's really hot, there are no rolling brownouts and blackouts. We have the ability to be independent and not have to worry about those things. Now, what does that mean? EV infrastructure requires workforce development. And they say, well, we don't know how to do that. Well, there are people in this audience right now that have been with me for the last 3 years, Robert being one, LARTA Institute being one. Raise your hand, Sharon. Sharon being one. Raise your hand, Pat. Raise your hand, Benny. So we all stayed on the steering committee, fighting through this thing, trying to figure out how to come together and pull all of us together as one voice. Because at the end of the day, if we don't stand together and come together like in this room should be filled right now. It should be overflowing. But I'm thankful for y'all, because at the end of the day, we just got to do it. And so when we look at the emerging industries, we look at the skills necessary to work in those industries, right? We're not asking for anything. When you get the intelligence, when you test that intelligence, you get confidence. If you make you don't make mistakes, you learn, right? And when you apply that, then you get confidence. And so all this is going to be funded. It's so funny. Foreign companies get it. They want to come over here and make money. We need to get it. This is our window right now, especially in our community, in our respective communities. And at the end of the day, if we do that, then we won't be relying upon the government to come and save us. We are who we've been waiting for. We need to go ahead and tell our, instead of, buying a Benz, right? Take that 401k and look at your children, because you're spending money and time in educating them, and get them to do a business. Sharon and I were talking about that the other day in terms of life science, right? I put all my money in my kids. And I got a daughter right now, probably they're easier to talk to and listen than boys. But, you went to UPenn, my daughter went to UPenn, biomedical engineering degree, took that to Howard, student body president, and they nurtured her more than they would at Marlboro, right, and at Penn. She went to Howard, and then she went to Meharry, right, and did her residency. And so at the end of now, she is specializing in maternal morbidity, right, in the Black community, and using laparoscopic robotic surgery for gynecological and oncology surgery. So I say this, we can take that example and apply it here, right? Because what kid doesn't like playing in the water, thinking about water? So what about aquaculture? What about solar turbines? What about all the things that we're doing? What about getting these EV infrastructure out? Right here at the port, when we dealt with our goods movement and transportation forum, the truckers were waiting in line, and they love to be able to use, electric trucks, but there's not, the range isn't there. The infrastructure isn't there. If we go ahead and accelerate that, right? While we're doing that, I got someone from WISPA sitting on my board. A lot of the oil companies see it coming, right? But we got to bring the elected officials into this discussion so that they don't pass bills that don't allow a transition and a movement away from the fuels that are destroying us to the fuel sources that will allow us to work and thrive for the next 10, 20 years and beyond.
Kevin, I want to interrupt you for just a second, but I want to make sure that I leave some room for Q&A, but before we do that, I want to go back to Ann Cooper, because Ann gave you sort of a broad brush infrastructure conversation. But I'd like her to drill down more on some of the conversations you and I had the other day around kelp and agriculture and what that looks like and what it does for the environment. And then for those of you in the audience listening, use your imaginations to figure out, ask yourself, just matter of fact, repeat after me. How do I get paid? How do I get paid? You should be asking yourself that question, because what we don't want to do is inundate you with information that you put on the shelf and leave. I'd like to see a few of you leave here today and call Gunyon and come up with a startup idea, get that incubated, and we move forward. So Ann, if you could go ahead and address that for us.
All right, so let's start with how do I get paid? One of the things that when you look at startups that are related to ocean and climate, they have very lofty goals about the impact they're going to make. But what we do is we teach them to be sustainable, profitable businesses. Because if you can't run a good business, you're not going to create jobs, you're not going to solve any big problems around the environment, because your business isn't going to exist anymore. So let's just start there. But Robert, we were talking just about some cool examples of the kinds of things that we do and transferable skills. So a couple of examples of some companies that we're working with. There's one company that, so first of all, kelp is a very important water plant for us, for our environment. It keeps down the storm surge, it's important. And we have a lot of issues around the kelp dying off, and one of which is the sea urchin has kind of taken over, and eats at the roots, whatever, and it destroys the climate. So we've got a company that basically what they do is they work with nonprofit and restoration groups to harvest the sea urchin. Then they use the shell of the sea urchin to make a marble. We've got another company that actually uses the sea urchin to, well, first of all, uni is a delicacy, so you basically harvest it and cultivate it and, and sell it for quite a healthy sum. But if you think about it, so EECI just graduated a group of divers and, and are doing advanced diving. Well, there's a huge industry now that is emerging to look at restoration of these kelp forests by removing the sea urchins and looking at, harvesting the sea urchins for also food and product. So these things are like transitioning from jobs that might have been in, underwater welding, but maybe it's for a different category. So I think one of the things that I would say about the jobs and how do we make money is look at areas, again, back to my question about, or comments about parallel, is look at skills. What skills you have, whether they are in working with your hands and, any kind of engineering, hands-on, electrical skills, IT skills, those are always need, but also communication skills. One of the things Robert and I were talking about is how hard it is for people to understand all the new technologies and solutions and innovations that are available. People that can translate, scientific and engineering topics to understandable English that your grandpa or grandma can understand. Huge opportunity and skills needed.
Well, thank you. Listen, 35 minutes is a fast time to do this in. What I wanted to do is we wanted to wet your whistle and your ears enough to say, am I doing the right things by my children and grandchildren with their current academics? Did I have them enrolled appropriately or on a migration path? All of the jobs that you heard about today pay 6 figures, all of them. And this industry is emerging, it's growing rapidly, and I have room for 1 or 2 maximum questions. So if anyone wants to volunteer or be voluntoed, I'd be happy to have you ask 1 or 2 questions. I see Pat Watts in the audience, but I'm not going to put her on the spot. Only to ask her, she's my boss too, by the way, on my board of directors. But I would say, Pat, you have done an incredible job of introducing energy efficiency, and the various programs that exist, and creating a workforce in the African American community and exposing them. Moving forward, how do you envision that to expand, not only with your own company, but other companies throughout Los Angeles County, and then the U.S.?
Thank you, Robert. I don't mind being put on the spot. But it's been a journey, to say at the least. I always had a passion for developing jobs. I always felt like our community lacked jobs, and that's why we had so many problems and challenges, and that if we create jobs, create our own businesses, and teach our not only individuals who are ready to go into the workforce, but pass that down on to our children, we can build our community wealth. That's important. Generational wealth is only going to come through people taking advantage of these opportunities and understanding what that means. So yes, it means going to training programs and participating. Yes, it means stepping out there and getting involved in something you might not know a whole lot about. But if you take the time to learn about solar, if you take the time to learn about EV charging, why that's important, why the microgrids are important, there are so many opportunities to teach, train, and develop individuals in our community. So does that answer your question?
Well, yes, and the reason I had Pat stand really is because Pat is one of my heroes. She's made a huge difference in this space, and I'd just like you all to give her roses and by giving her a round of applause. I want to leave room for one more question.
Can I just, while you're
Yes, please,
looking,
go ahead.
just, you made a really strong comment there that I didn't want to get buried, is to create your own company and create your own jobs. When I started Braid Theory about 9 years ago, I was told by a well-respected colleague of mine, "And you're unemployable." So I just started my own company.
There you go. There you go.
Sometimes we just got to do that.
So, yes, question right here in the front, and then I'm going to close it out.
Hello, my name is Dr. Summer DeRuiter. My company is DeRuiter R&D. I just wanted to ask, in the face of what we're seeing from the federal government, as a grant writer, it can be a little demoralizing right now. And what I was wondering is there an effort to create a more connected community amongst all of us who really want to see what I call the Star Trek future? You know, I see two possible futures that are almost at war right now. The Star Trek future, where we use technology to come back in balance with the community. And then there's the Mad Max future, which is we just use everything up, decimate everything, and then we're clawing for the last remnants. Is there an effort in place to bring all of these well-meaning organizations, the investors with the money, the community with the ideas, and the people? I really feel like this is a moment for all of us to bind this together.
Yes.
Do you guys know of anybody that's trying to pull it all together?
Let me start the answer this way. That is going, there's not a one and done. This is not a one and done, and there's not a simple solution to that, but there is a gathering point. And I'm going to ask Gunjan to speak to that question because
Sure,
he has a really good answer.
Nice to see you again, Summer. Thank you for that question. So there are several entities in our region, in the region of LA and surrounding counties, that are trying to bring it all together. State of California is certainly contributing to that. And there are other national organizations, from corporates to foundations, that are exploring ways in which they can contribute to this ecosystem. But the beauty of it is it doesn't stop there. What we get to see, and this is happening real time in the last 3 weeks alone, internationally, all countries from Europe, for example, that are big into sustainability, that are big into climate tech, are coming down to California saying, "I want to bring my companies out here. Can you help me set that up? Can you actually do technology transfer so that I can create manufacturing operations out here, because California is going to be consuming those clean tech, those climate impact, resilience and adaptation technology or innovation solutions to be deployed out here." And they see California as a state and LA as a region as the region which can make it happen. So there are numerous organizations. We are a part of those groups. State of California has put together what they call as the California Jobs First funding. That is $128 million to be given for implementation of innovations across various innovation cluster areas, including sustainability as well. And that is bringing together huge number of companies to collaborate, organizations, nonprofits, cities, foundations, etc., to make it happen. Hopefully that answers that question.
Ann?
I just want to say, hang out with us here at AltaSea. We have a microcosm of that right here. This is what we do day in and day out. I'm a tenant here at AltaSea. Part of my give back is to bring in interns, to work with the researchers, to work with industry, to bring the startups. We are building these kinds. So while you look at the large efforts, and I'm involved in many international ones, it's the boots on the ground work that we're all doing, like right here today. Keep staying connected, because this is working, this AltaSea community.
Excellent. Sharon, I was told that I have room for one question bulleted and one quick answer. Go ahead. Who has the microphone for Sharon?
I'm Sharon Evans, and thank you so much, Starlet. So I am on the steering committee for California Jobs First, but I wanted to to really uplift the work that we're seeing done and bring forth a connected call to action. So LARTA is doing some amazing work in terms of accelerating and incubating, and the commercialization work is fantastic. But what we have learned I serve as co-chair of transportation for BizFed Los Angeles, and what we learned is what really seems to drive is an intersection, and we really capitalize that in LA called P3s. Public-private partnerships have a way of attracting local and international capital, stimulating business opportunity. I worked on the People Mover, I wrote their diversity plan, right? But it also mandates community benefits agreements so that our workforce, our communities, our minority and small businesses have a contracted role in that investment ecosystem. So I want to uplift and encourage the continuation and the bringing together. And as you guys are negotiating on LARTA, please make sure our community benefits agreements are included and that a part of that revenue flows through so that that these international firms don't just pillage our communities, but add to it.
Sharon, I want to thank you for that. And Sharon is really someone who fights for everyone's voice to be heard. And I would encourage every one of you to gather around her after this session and pick her brain. She's got a lot to say. But listen, let's give our panel a round of applause. Thank you all. I know this was fast. And I want to say that, some other sectors look at us as if we're a bunch of weirdos or what have you, but we're here. And I thought about this when I was sitting here earlier. This is the only sector that unites all cultures because we're all impacted. And whether what they think about us or not, well, let's just say they're not like us. I said they're not like us.
You mess up your cue.